Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Black Logic. So, in a series of sweeping actions, the Trump administration, in collaboration with Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, has initiated significant reductions across various federal agencies. Now, these moves have led to widespread terminations, raising concerns about the future of public service and the stability of the federal workforce. Now, starting off, over 5,000 probationary employees from the health agencies, including the National Institute of Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, received termination notices this weekend. This action is part of a broader strategy to downsize the federal workforce, targeting employees still within their probationary periods. Officials assert that these critical roles, such as the CDC and the FDA scientists, frontline periods. Now, a lot of these people, healthcare workers and Medicare employees, remain unaffected. However, the abrupt nature of these layoffs has sparked criticism for causing confusion and anxiety among staff. So people are in an uproar because, again, these are coming very very quickly, and very fast. Now, to the American public who may not be part of these federal organizations, you may not feel the full gravity of the situation, because we're not just talking about the people who apply for these jobs, who are qualified for these jobs, to fence for their families, to provide for their families. But again, let's think about their families versus the actual person who will be losing their livelihood. And hopefully they can bounce back and on their feet, get another job of sorts. Maybe they'll be furloughed. Maybe they'll be hired back once Elon Musk, Donald Trump see the gravity of the federal government. Nobody really knows, but initially they're coming in with a wave and just cutting those people who are in their probationary periods. Now, I don't know the federal government's probationary period. Maybe it's 30 days, maybe it's 90, maybe it's even 6 months. While you're in this, sort of safety zone after your probationary period, because quite frankly, what I've been hearing, and this is why a lot of people love government jobs, especially federal government jobs, it takes almost an act of Congress for you to get fired from the federal government. I mean, you could be late for work, all these other things, and they just have to keep writing you up. And I don't know, it's because it's very difficult to become a federal employee in the first place. So it's just as this is what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, leave it in the chat here. But nonetheless, I've heard it's also hard to fire government workers, even when they're non-productive. So again, these are some of the reasons probably why. But again, I'm looking not at just the government as a whole. I am looking at the people who are losing their livelihood, people who are losing their jobs, people who have these jobs to provide for their family. Because again, a lot of these people also voted for Donald Trump. But I don't think they knew the full gravity, the full situation of how he was going to cut government spending. I think that the initial thought for most people was he's going to create DOGE, they're going to come in, audit, and then cut funding, or essentially get rid of a lot of these pork belly experiments and projects under Congress and the Senate. But no, I definitely believe that he was going to cut a lot of these federal jobs, because he stated, we're going to merge 400 federal organizations into 99. He said merge. Anytime you merge, people are getting fired. Now, absorb is a different word. Again, we have to know the etymology of words. Absorb, they just can fall under a hierarchy and keep the same amount of people. But to the American public, on the surface, okay, they just fall under another jurisdiction. They fall on another federal organization. But no, he said merge. And so this is part of the merge, AKA the purge. And hopefully these people can bounce back on their feet. Hopefully there's some sort of program to assist them to get maybe private or corporate jobs, or maybe even jobs on the state level, doing some of the same things they were doing. But again, I'm gonna keep you guys updated. Thank you guys for joining me here at Black Logic. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Now, Elon Musk's DOGE team has issued termination notices to over a dozen employees at the U.S. Digital Service, a federal IT department. This move aligns with the administration's agenda to streamline government operations and reduce spending. The affected employees were informed via letters from the U.S. DOGE service, citing the recent executive order establishing DOGE as the basis for their termination. And the reason why I look at this with a side eye when it comes to the federal IT department, they're a part of our security, our cybersecurity defense. And we know that we've been infiltrated by Russia. We've been infiltrated by China when it comes to our cybersecurity. I wonder who they laid off, why they laid them off, other than just, government spending, or you guys have too many people. But again, what were their jobs? What were their duties? What were their responsibilities? Because again, America IT infrastructure, our cybersecurity is not that great. To be the most powerful country in the world, okay? And again, I always say powerful and riches because to a certain degree, are there other countries whose currency is more than America's? Of course. But again, the way our economics work, we're still the most powerful and the richest. I just wonder if this was a good move. Now, I look at all of these, quite frankly, the same. But when it comes to IT, I just look at all the infiltration that usually occurs, okay, throughout the year, but mostly during voting season. So I wonder who these people were that they let go. I'm just very curious because, again, I'm not saying that we need more people for cybersecurity. We need a more effective systems, a more effective firewalls and antivirus and all other sorts of barriers in place to prevent people from, attacking the American government by the way of cyber. So again, or virtually rather. But again, I just wonder if all these layoffs, it may help the government. But again, I really want you guys to think about the American citizen piece. Again, these are still American citizens. We don't know if they voted Democrat or Republican or Independent, and it really doesn't matter. Some of these people are catching strays simply because they apply for a government job, and here they are in their probationary period, and they're adios, mi amigos. Okay? So again, that's a component that I'm looking at. Now, a lot of you may be happy with this. I just don't know just yet when it comes to the IRS. Because I want you guys to think in this very unprecedented move during the peak of tax season of 2025, but for 2024, the IRS plans to lay off thousands of probationary workers. And these layoffs are expected to commence as early as next week. And this is part of the administration's efforts to shrink the federal workforce. The timing raises concerns about potential disruptions in processing over 140 million tax returns that are due by April 15 deadline. Now, despite previous investments amid a bolstering the IRS capabilities, recent policy shifts have led to the withdrawal of funding and the implementation of these cuts. And I know a lot of you people dislike the IRS. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone say, I like the IRS. Now, a lot of you may like your tax return because you're getting a little bit of your money back. But when we look at all the taxes that we pay as American citizens, we pay federal tax. Some of us pay state tax, property tax, income tax, sales tax, excise tax, or sin tax. We pay a lot of taxes in America. Now, we don't pay as much taxes that they do in Europe because they just kind of do this, universal health care, universal dental care, but they're taxing them at 40%. I think the highest tax bracket, if I'm not mistaken, leave it in the chat, was it 32, 36%? I know it doesn't go with 36%. From my recollection, I don't believe it goes over 36%. But again, this is not the time to fire these probationary people. Not during the midst of tax season. At least allow Americans to get their tax return back. Now, some of you are saying, well, every year I owe taxes, so good. Maybe they'll never get to my taxes. But let me tell you something about the IRS. The IRS has a very, very strange way of waiting 10, 15, 20 years and coming to take your house because you owe back taxes with interest. With interest. So again, can we get through this tax season before we really start to shake things up? Again, this need to be more strategic than it is political. Because again, a lot of you are doing the same thing that I'm doing. We're looking at DOGE. We're looking at some of the moves that the president make. We're like, okay, yeah, that's a good move. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, good. You're going in there. You're cutting fraud, waste, and abuse. You're calling out those outliers. Great, good. That's good. Yeah, get rid of them. Not only I want you guys to think about your tax return, and I'm not just talking about the money that you may receive or the money that you may pay, but I want you to look at the long-term effects of this. And I'm not talking about, supporting the government and paying for the infrastructure and all these other things. Because again, I showed you guys last night how they're reducing billions of dollars that they were allocating for the infrastructure. Again, we need better roads. We need better highway signs that could be digital or more informative. You might want to detour here. That can all be computerized to a certain degree. Again, when I look at Abu Dhabi, when I look at what's the place that everybody loves? Dubai. When I look at places like that, and again, we're talking about sheiks with billions and billions and billions of dollars. They're daily drivers of Bugatti. I get it. They have a lot of money over there in the Middle East, a lot of those large oil countries. But nonetheless, we have some of the same money here that DOGE has exposed. Why aren't our streets laced with people like you guys probably have a couple of electric vehicles that you just drive down the street and your electric vehicle charges? Okay. Why we don't have early warning detection system for traffic jams and how we can detour and probably be a couple of minutes behind, but not stay and wait in traffic? Why we don't have predictive analysis with buses and trains and how they intermingle in the whole transportation? Again, I'm just looking at the infrastructure. Why we don't have really great tap water, whether it be federally funded or subsidized or state funded? Why we don't have these things? Again, we pay massive amounts of taxes. Why are we paying for, if you own a house, why are you paying for sewage? Isn't that a city state infrastructure? Don't your tax dollars pay for that? And if you don't have state taxes, don't your property tax or your sales tax or your income tax pay for it for your state? Like, again, I'm with you guys on this, but again, I'm not only looking at my tax return that I may or may not get, but I'm also looking at the American people that are being let go. And I think that's important. I always have to put the human factor in there because we have to keep this near and dear to our hearts because it may affect someone that you know. It may affect someone that you know. And I just can't, I just don't essentially want to let that go too soon, too fast, too soon. Now, at Munich, they're holding a security conference. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy called for the creation of a unified European military force to counter Russian aggression. He expressed concerns over the U.S. administration approach to Ukraine and emphasized that Europe's future security should be determined by Europeans themselves. Zelenskyy criticized the exclusion of Europe from U.S.-led negotiations with Russia and stressed that any decisions about Ukraine must involve Ukrainian input. Now, I'm going to handle this in the reverse order. He does have a point. Ukraine needs to be at the table at these peace treaty talks, at these ceasefire talks. Ukraine definitely need to be at the table. President Zelenskyy definitely need to be at the table, in my opinion. You should have a say-so in what your country is willing or willing not to do. What your country is willing to do or what they're not going to do. But now he's calling out to all his European friends and all the countries that are neighboring Ukraine and a lot of others. And he's calling, we shouldn't leave this up to the Americans and the Russians to decide for us Europeans. And this is the same president who's been receiving billions of dollars from America by the way of Joe Biden. And now because Donald Trump is not bending the knee to pay Ukraine billions of dollars, now he wants to call on other European nations. Why didn't you do that in the first place? Why did you come across seas to America, to the big dogs in the world, to ask for our money, support, resources, and advisement with strategies? Why did you do that and not call out for European assistance before? I'm just very, very curious on this. Because now he wants Europeans to form a military force to counter Russian aggression. You see how he turns his back on America very, very quickly? Oh yeah. These European U.S. led negotiations with Russia, we can't allow this to happen. We need a European military force so we can counter and combat Russia. Why you didn't do that in the first place? And this is one of the moves that I say that I like that Donald Trump is doing. Again, a lot of people may not agree. I understand. But they've been dependent on America for a very, very long time. And it's about time that they do for self. It's about time that they do for self. Now, in response to being sidelined from the U.S. Russia peace negotiations, European leaders are convening an emergency summit in Paris. Now, this summit is led by the French President Macron, which aims to address the exclusion of Europe from critical decisions affecting the continent's security. European officials have expressed concerns over the U.S. unilateral approach and are seeking to exert their role in the peace process to ensure that European interests and the sovereignty of nations like Ukraine are withheld. So it seems as though that the European nations are going to help and support Ukraine. Bravo. Well done. Well done, Europe. So America has forked out over $200 billion. And we've been in this war with Ukraine from the start until now. From the time that it kicked off until now. And Zelenskyy said itself, Europe cannot guarantee Ukraine's security without America. That's interesting. That's interesting. First, you want to turn your back, cry foul. Oh, this shouldn't be left up to the Americans in Russia, but we need a European military force, okay? We need a European military force, but there's no way we can do this without the Americans. No. Let's keep it a buck. America's in the West, and to us is the East. But we always, because America are those European pilgrims and colonizers that came over from Europe. So we count America and Europe as the West, and we count Asia and Russia in the East. No, to America, we're on the West. You guys are on out East. Because you know what we do? If you're facing America and you're looking like this, which way do you turn? Right? Left is usually west. Right is usually east. North is usually up. And south is usually down. Again. Now, they're not only going about a lot of these firings that they're doing of American citizens and the tariffs that they have imposed on some European nations, as well as Mexico and China and others. They're also going about it with VAT system. Are you guys familiar with VAT? If you travel, you may understand the VAT system where you can where these foreign countries tax you, but you can get a bit of it back as long as you show your receipts if it's a certain amount. I've never got any money back from the VAT system. So again, I'm not batting the eye behind this as well. Because President Trump announced plans to impose new tariffs on countries utilizing value-added tax systems, treating them as tariffs. This policy aims to address perceived trade imbalances, particularly with European nations where VAT rates average around 22%. The administration argues that VAT systems are more punitive to the U.S. than traditional tariffs and seeks to establish trade reciprocity and fairness. And we understand that this move could significantly impact international trade relations and has prompted discussions about the potential of new trade negotiations, which they already have done because he's imposed a lot of tariffs on these people anyway. He's imposed a lot of tariffs on these people anyway. Now, I know last night I showed you guys how a lot of the old school Democrats have very conservative views. I mean, considering today's very liberal Democrats, even with the likes of Joe Biden, even Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, they had these, bills, legislation that they wanted to pass to streamline the government, to cut fraud, waste, and abuse. And I showed you guys Bill Clinton with Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, but I forgot to show you guys good old Joe Biden. Good old Joe Biden. I think it's only right that I show you guys that Joe Biden was one of these old school conservative Democrats, not saying that he was a Republican, conservative Democrats that kind of wanted the same thing. Can we look at this very quickly? Let's start off with Barack Obama, but nonetheless, we're going to hear what Joe Biden has to say, because we already heard your views, Barack, and you're just doubling down with this particular piece here.
Budget reform is not an option. It's a necessity.
The American people are entitled to transparency.
We can't sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of politicians, lobbyists, or interest groups.
They're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for.
We are going to go through our federal budget, as I promised during the campaign, page by page, line by line, eliminating those programs we don't need and insisting that those that we do need operate in a sensible, cost-effective way.
What should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue.
No amount of waste is acceptable, not when it's your money.
We all know that government can be inefficient. We all know that the bureaucracy can be bloated. We all worked in the fucking White House. We tried to reorganize the government. We tried to find efficiency. It's hard to do.
And honestly, some of this is pretty annoying because it's some of the stuff we should have done.
Exactly. These are things that a lot of these presidents before Donald Trump could have done. These are the things that a lot of these politicians could have cut. But instead of doing exactly what Barack Obama and Joe Biden has done, they flipped it. They increased the government. They made government large and in charge. So a lot of people are hating Trump, and I get it. He's very easy to hate, and for some, he's very easy to love and like because of the things that he's doing. Again, and I told you guys, I like some of the things he's doing. I don't like everything he's doing. But again, we should be very, very neutral, okay, and biased of our political figures that you guys appointed and selected and voted for. Okay, whether you lost with Kamala or you won with Trump, it doesn't matter. This is the administration that is in charge. And again, I want this administration to succeed for the American people, not for themselves. And again, a lot of people have been touting their chest talking about, well, this is only going to help the filthy rich. They're going in there gutting these programs, and they're going to try to figure out how to make Elon Musk and Donald Trump richer. The transparency is speaking for itself. And are they going to be as transparent with Elon Musk with a lot of the government contracts that he has under NASA? Again, these are federal funded organizations. A lot of money that Elon Musk has accumulated has been through the federal government. Are they going to audit themselves? Is he going to take a step down temporarily while they investigate a lot of the contracts that he may have with the federal government? I don't know. Should that occur? Absolutely. No one should get a pass. No one. But as we look at a lot of these Democrats and some of the things they were stating was just political talks? Was it just rhetoric that they were speaking? Because they didn't do anything. Now, granted, if we comb back and look at some of the legislation that they proposed to pass, and it got stopped at the Senate, it got stopped at the House, and never made it to the president's desk for them to sign into law. I've been saying this for a very long time on this channel here. Whatever happened to all the power with executive orders? And Donald Trump is not playing. I don't know how I was keeping track the first week or two, but I think he's over 50 to 100 executive orders. I may give you that numbers when I get back from my hiatus. Again, I just want to let you guys know I'm taking a hiatus. You won't see me for an entire week. I've been going hard and strong. I believe I deserve a little bit of time off, but nonetheless, I'm going to miss you guys. Hopefully you miss me as well. But again, let's get into the heart of the broadcast here. You guys know I love this piece here. When we're talking about very prominent people in America, American citizens, and for him, by the way, of Canada. But nonetheless, I want you guys to really imagine a world where train steamships and factory machines constantly broke down because their engines overheated. Now imagine a black engineer revolutionizing the industry by creating an automatic lubrication system that changed transportation and manufacturing forever. You guys ever heard of the term the real McCoy? And this term has been thrown around white America for quite some time. I've heard black people say this as well, but it's very, very popular. But I want you guys to really look behind the man, the name that they're using. I want you guys to meet Elijah J. McCoy, the brilliant Canadian American engineer whose invention of the automatic lubrication system for steam engines made trains and machines run faster, longer, and more efficiently. Why is he Canadian American even during a time like this? Because his parents, both mother and father, were born in America, but in a trip or maybe a short stay in Canada, Elijah McCoy was born. Now, his work transformed railroads, steam engines, and the industrial machinery. He holds over 50 patents, shaping modern mechanical engineering. His name became so respected that the real McCoy became a phrase meaning the real deal. Now, despite his groundbreaking contributions, his name is often missing from the history books. We celebrate Elijah McCoy, the black inventor who kept the world moving. Born in 1844 in Ontario, Canada, to formerly enslaved parents, McCoy's family later moved to the United States, where he developed a passion for the engineer. And I want to make sure you guys understand what I'm getting at. His parents were slaves in the U.S., and I'm trying to find out that they flee to Canada, where slaves became free. Again, everybody was trying to get to the north, essentially, in any regards, and even Canada, because they didn't have slavery in Canada at the time. But his parents were enslaved in America, and then they, I believe they fled to Canada, where he was born. But as a child, he showed an early interest in mechanics and innovation. He studied mechanical engineering in Scotland, one of the few places where black students could get advanced training at the time. Despite his degree, racial discrimination in the U.S. prevented him from getting an engineering job, so he worked as a railroad fireman. But McCoy didn't let racism stop him. He used his skills to change the industry from the inside. While working on steam locomotives, McCoy noticed that the engines had to be manually stopped and oiled to prevent overheating. This process was very inefficient, costly, and slowed down trains and factories. He invented the automatic lubrication system, a device that allowed steam engines to oil themselves while still running, increase efficiency, and reduce the need for human labor. He was quickly adopted by railroads, steamships, and industrial factories. Trains, ships, and machines could now run smoother and longer, all thanks to McCoy's invention. Elijah McCoy's lubrication system were used across multiple industries, including railroads, steamships, factories, and automobiles. His technology laid the foundation for modern automated lubrication systems used in engines worldwide. McCoy's inventions were so superior that many companies tried to create cheaper knockoffs, but engineers and mechanics knew that only McCoy's original devices worked the best. Stop trying to make these cheap knockoffs and get the best that Elijah McCoy created. People started asking for the real McCoy. This is a fake. This is a knockoff. This is cheap. We want the real McCoy to ensure they got his genuine, high-quality invention. This phrase became a popular saying meaning the real deal, a testament to his legacy. Elijah McCoy's name becomes synonymous with excellence and authenticity. Despite his brilliance, McCoy unfortunately faced racism in the engineering industry, forcing him to work in lower positions despite his qualifications. A lack of financial support, limiting his ability to expand his business, being overshadowed by white inventors, even though his technology was widely used. But he persisted, securing over 50 patents and changing history forever. He held over 57 patents in lubrications and mechanical engineering. He's inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. His lubrication technology is still used in engines today, even to this day, and this is from the 1800s. The phrase, the real McCoy, lives on as a symbol of quality. Elijah McCoy's inventions revolutionized transportation in the industry, yet his name remains overlooked. So the next time you see a train, a factory machine, or even hear the phrase, the real McCoy, I want you guys to remember, I want you guys to look at the real McCoy Elijah J. McCoy. So today, sir, we take a moment, we honor you, we salute you for your contributions, not only to America and Canada, but for the world as we know it. We thank you for the lubrications, the automatic lubrications of trains, steam engines, and automobiles. Because without you, sir, who knows, we may drive 10 miles, stop, or the engine, or the pistons, drive again 10 miles, and do it all over again. So nonetheless, we thank you, sir, for your contributions. Thank you guys for joining me here in Black Logic. Please leave comments below after the video. Thank you for joining me. You guys have a great and wonderful day. And don't forget, I'm taking hiatus. I see you guys on next Monday, but not tomorrow. This is Black Logic.